What have
Yeah.
been some of the biggest struggles with just growing G Code? I mean, I
Oh
doubt
man,
staying
yeah.
true to the brand message is one because I mean,
No,
yeah,
no,
that's
no,
huge.
yeah, no. I would say the challenges are, a lot of it's logistical and a lot of it's obvious too, right? Like, um, one of the challenges is that it's a huge industry and it's highly competitive. And there's only so much shelf space. And when I say shelf space, I don't just mean in stores and brick and mortars. I mean like in people's minds,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, how do you clear off some shelf space in their mind for your brand, your product, right? So yeah, just general brand awareness, letting people know you're out there. That is a huge hurdle at all times, right? And then another aspect of it is that, like, coming into this endeavor, uh I had many boxes checked in terms of like things that I brought to the table and like sharpened swords that I had, right, for this battle. But I'm not a sales guy, right? So like by default, I kind of had to become that, and I'm still evolving in that way where, like, sales are critical to the brand existing and growing and flourishing, and prospering. And I had to turn from like sort of a creative and a marketing guy into focusing on more nuts and bolts stuff and stuff that um, you know impacts the bottom line more directly, right? So that's like an evolution that I'm still in the process of, in a place that we need to be stronger. Um, so that's another challenge. And another thing, and it's funny, right? Like I laugh about it and I say it out loud to people because it makes me laugh, is the thought that, like, you spend every day praying for more sales, right? Praying for more sales, working for more sales, right? But as you create more sales and sell more stuff, you need to be creating more products in inventory. Right? And it
Yeah.
seems so obvious, right? But like that is one of the big challenges, is
Hmm.
like, how do you grow and create more sales while keeping stuff in stock, right? Like,
What a
I don't know
balance.
if you've ever, it's like a constant
Yeah.
struggle, right? Constant struggle, right? And like, I don't know if you've ever read the book. You should highly recommend Shoe Dog,
Shoe
which
dog.
is Phil Knight, who started Nike. It's his memoirs,
Okay.
and it's like the first. Like, here's the thing: like the first 18 years of the brand, before, like, and don't get me wrong, in the 70s, like, they had caught on and stuff, whatever. But there's a long stretch of at least a decade, way before Jordan brand, which is like 85, 86, way before that, right? Way before they became a publicly traded company, way before any of that, right? Where basically Phil Knight is trying to grow Nike, and what it is like he's has his shoes are being made overseas, and there's a boat of shoes that will land on U.S. shores, and by the time that boat lands, he needs to have sold all the last boat, right, to be able to pay for the next
Yep.
boat. Right, the next slightly bigger boat of shoes coming over needs to have been paid for with the last boat's profits, right? And
Yeah.
it's a cycle
Jeez.
like that for like a decade, right? And like, when once you're neck deep in it, you get it. You totally get it. And like, so like that's like this very obvious logistical challenge, but it's like, um, yeah, how do you just keep stuff in stock as you grow? So
Yeah.
like I feel that. But it's a crazy part of the process. So yeah, there's nuts and bolts things in terms of um growing, that and growing pains and figuring that out on a daily basis that we need to get better at. And then also, just like the thought of, like, a tree falls in the woods, right? Like, you could build the best brand in the world, but if not enough people know it exists, then you know
Yeah.
uh, is it really that great a brand, right? And I know that that's a really that's not a sort of a bleak and negative way of looking at it, and that's not my type, right? I'm not trying to be pessimistic or cynical, but the truth of the matter is, right, like, that tree falls in the woods, if nobody's there, did it make a noise, right? Same deal, right? So it's like, you build this brand, you believe in them, you believe in it, you believe in the quality of the products, you believe in the messaging. How do I reach more people? And it's that constant effort to reach more people.
Hmm. I mean, you and everything you did with the animal, you created influencers in a sense, right? Like you kind of, dude, the posters that I had on my wall in high school and stuff of, Frank,
Sure.
everybody, Evan, like all those guys, like you help
Yeah.
create influencers with that.
Sure.
and now that's like what seems like all the market is at this point. Like if you have a brand, you just pay an influencer.
Right,
Eh,
sure.
Is that what is that dynamic like?
I mean, like I can't speak to that dynamic in a way, and maybe I need to, right? But I can't speak to that dynamic in a way that's informed because like we've never really had anybody involved with G Code who's a mercenary, right? So pretty much anybody who's
Gotcha.
ever been out there speaking highly of the brand or representing the brand from a small level to a bigger level, right? They all came to the brand organically and naturally. So
Mhm.
it was either a friendship that grew over time, or somebody who just happened upon the brand, liked the products, liked how it looked or felt.
Yeah.
It meant something to them, and then they kind of came aboard in whatever fashion, right? So, I mean, I know that there's value to that kind of marketing, obviously, and the thought of just like figuring out this person who's an influencer out there, uh, you know, um, taking the resources involved and putting it be into cutting a check to that person, and then it's like South Park and the underpants gnomes. I don't know if you've ever seen that, right? But it's like the method of business. They're these little gnomes who come and steal the underwear, right? Myself and Mark always talk about it, right? But like Plan A is steal all the underwear. Plan B, and then it's blank because they haven't figured out. Step A is collect all the underwear. Step B
Yeah.
is blank because they haven't figured it out yet, and then step C is collect millions of dollars, right? So it's like
Yeah.
figuring out B, right? And like that's the whole process, is figuring out that it's step B in that process. And like you know maybe it is as simple as figuring out who that influencer is and having a lot of cash to throw at them, and then they talk to their people, and all of a sudden your brand is huge. Like I don't know,
Yeah. But
I
I
know
love the
that's a
way that you
business
go
model.
about
I
it.
know that's a business model, and I can't say it's not effective, but it's just not where we've ever. It's not the place that we've ever operated in.
And
You know.
I know a lot of people respect that too, because there's a lot of, and I'm not gonna throw shade at anybody, but
No, of
you
course.
hop on Instagram, you look at it, you see someone who's got 60,000 followers, right? Well,
Sure.
and then they just start posting up this brand you've never heard of. 6 months later, brand's moving, whatever.
Sure.
But that's I mean, dude, Josh Halliday, for instance, right?
Sure.
God, that guy was one of the biggest like inspirations for me in bodybuilding for the longest time.
Yeah,
When
I
I
think
was
for a lot of
gonna go
people.
compete
Yeah.
at Teen Nationals, he's like, dude, you can stay with me. I'm like, yo, Josh Halliday told me I could stay with him if I was gonna
Yeah.
compete. Oh, dude, I got to get out there. Fortunately, got hurt, couldn't go.
Right.
But like, those are the kind of people you want to represent the brand, and
Of course.
I know you care about that a lot, and I
Sure.
think that is what's so well respected. Um,
Man, it's just like the idea, ideally, and this isn't all. This isn't foolproof, and it's not always the case. But the goal is that, like anything, right? Like the people who are associated with your brand, you want them to sort of line up with your values, right? And like
mhm.
the thing about Josh is that he's got this exceptional physique, but he's also just a good dude, and he's a family man, and
Yep,
his values line up with my values. It's one of the reasons he and I have always been friends, but then it also makes him like an ideal guy to represent the brand. So like the fact
100%.
that, just for example, he would invite you to crash at his place tells you what kind of a person we're talking about, right? So like somebody like that, is the kind of guy that we want to be associated with G Code. And the funny thing about it is that, like, don't get me wrong, you might have a big check that you can cut to somebody, and that influencer might be a guy of the same sort of character as a Josh Holiday, but you don't know that until you get to know them. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
those relationships are very, sort of clinical and sterile, and it's like I said, it's mercenary. It's mercenary in that way, where here's this person who can do this thing. I cut them the check. They do this thing. And I don't know them as people, and they don't know me as a person. They don't know the people who are involved in the brand as a person. They, as people, they don't know what we're all about. They don't, and this isn't being cynical, right? But they don't know what we're all about. Maybe they don't give a shit, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just cut the check kind of person, kind of perspective, and I get that, and I'm not even knocking that. I know that everybody's got to do what they got to do to to, keep the lights on, and I respect that. It's one of those things like we were talking about when you were saying like what you sort of respect in regards to the marketing in the industry and whatnot and all that. And I'm the same way, man. And I look at things through a similar lens, But when anybody asks me about like some big company, some ultra successful company, right? Like before, first of all, I don't talk shit on anybody, but even before it gets to that point, I always preface it by saying, "Hey, man, I tip my cap to anybody who can be successful in this game because it's not easy." Like so, I no matter who it is, no matter what it is, like before I say anything that could even be, even be slightly shaded as negative or critical, I'll say that because it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So like I tip my cap to anybody who's figured it out because it ain't easy.
Yeah. So